Let's talk about the antibody-mediated immunity. Remember, this one is mostly going to be our B cells that are actively working, and B cells create plasma cells, which create antibodies. So our end goal here is to create these antibodies. We have a 3-step process in order for us to start producing antibodies. The first of which is going to be sensitization. Sensitization is where you are going to be first activating that B cell because you're going to identify the antigen that you're attacking. So what we're going to see is we have free-floating antigens within our body. They're free-floating because bacteria do this thing that's called bacterial shedding, where they're just basically releasing and sloughing off these antigens as they're moving around, and so you're getting these pieces of antigens everywhere. Plus, innate immunity is messy. Your phagocytic cells are just going around and eating all the pathogens that they can find, and in the process, you're just having pieces of antigens that are going to be floating around within your interstitial fluid. And then you'll also have viral leakage, which is when your cell is infected, pieces of that virus are going to be leaking out of it. So you have all these antigens that are just floating around randomly within your interstitial fluid. We have these naive B cells that are coming in. So remember, naive means that it has not encountered a pathogen yet. So this naive B cell is going to have antigens that it comes into contact with. Now, if we look at the surface of this B cell, we will have MHC2 markers. So here's our class 2 MHC that's going to be on the B cell. But we also have antibodies that are acting as B cell receptors. So instead of TCRs with a T cell receptor, our B cell receptors are going to actually be antibodies that they have pushed up to the surface of their plasma membrane. So antigens are going to come in, and then they're going to be brought into the cell. And then as the cell brings it in, it's then going to be creating these antibodies that are going to be on the surface of its plasma membrane, and it's going to pick up that antigen from within its cytosol, and it's going to push it out onto its own antibody. So now our antigens are bound to the antibody. This is a sensitized B cell at this point, because now we have an antigen that we've been exposed to, so we're not naive anymore, and now we're pushing it out onto our antibodies and our MHC2. This sensitized B cell, though, is not active yet. We cannot make antibodies from it at this point. What we have to have is a helper T cell. Remember, this helper T cell has already gone through its activation. So this helper T cell is going to have its TCR that matches with this antigen already, its CD4 protein, and we're going to go through that co-stimulation. So the TCR is going to match with the MHC2 on our B cell, and then it's going to say, oh yes, I recognize this, and start secreting cytokines. Those cytokines are what activates our sensitized B cell to become an activated B cell. So this sensitized B cell is going to be able to know that, yes, this is exactly the type of antigen that we're looking for, so you need to make antibodies against it. Some of those will become memory B cells. Most of them, though, are going to become activated B cells, which will differentiate into plasma cells. Plasma cells are the working cells that are creating antibodies. You're going to make like 100 million antibodies per hour once these have all started going. So the antibody production is going to skyrocket, and the antibodies are then going to float through your interstitial fluid. All of these, of course, matching that initial antigen. Let's talk about what the antibodies actually are in terms of their structure, and then what they're doing for our immune response. So you can see here we have these little purple and blue sections of it. Antibodies are generally going to be in what we consider to be this Y shape. So the basic setup is going to be this Y, where you are going to have variable segments as well as constant segments. You're going to have heavy chains as well as light chains in terms of how they are structured. I'm not going to make you know specifically the difference of it, but you can see the light chains are going to be here that are going to be in blue, which is going to be our variable section, and then where the light and the heavy are going to meet, that's where your antigen is going to be able to bind. So this end and this end are going to be binding sites, but not this one. This one down here is our constant segment, so this constant segment is not a binding site. Now, the way that this works is when we talk about a pathogen, pathogens are large. Antibodies are tiny little proteins, so these little proteins are going to be tiny little guys. When you talk about the pathogen is of course going to be generally a cell, like a bacterial cell that you're looking at. Bacterial cell are going to be made of course, organelles. Those organelles, of course, are going to be made of those different macromolecules or biological molecules that you have, which are going to be your carbs, your proteins, your lipids, your nucleic acids. So when we're looking in terms of this antibody, the antibody is tiny compared to that bacterial cell. Now, when we want to actually bind, what's going to happen is, here's an antigen. Now remember, this antigen is just one little piece of that pathogen. So it's those proteins that stuck out onto the pathogen. So the pathogen is huge, because even looking at this is just the antigen on our pathogen that we're binding to, and then look at the relative size of the antibodies that are on it. So the site where you can have binding is our antigenic determinant sites. Those are going to be on the antigen itself. And so those are the spots. They're also referred to as epitopes. So antigen determinant sites, or epitopes, that's where the antibody can actually bind. So you can see here, once the antibodies are released, you're going to have a bunch binding to the epitopes of the antigens, and the antigens, of course, are on the pathogens. Now remember, our antibodies are floating around within our plasma and our interstitial fluid. What antibodies cannot do is they don't go into your body cells. So antibodies are only effective against extracellular pathogens like bacteria. Now with bacteria, when you have a bacterial infection, that's because the bacteria are eating your cells. They attach to your body cells and they're using them as food. And so they're destroying your body cells, but in the process, they're also releasing toxins. And those toxins are very bad for your body as well. So bacteria don't physically enter our cells, they're eating our cells from the outside. Viruses are going to go into our cells to inject their genetic material. So antibodies are not effective against things that are inside our cells. They're really only effective against things that are extracellular, like bacteria. Now, if these antibodies attaching to the epitopes on the antigens, which are on the pathogens, aren't actually killing the bacteria, what are they doing? Well, there's going to be basically 7 different things that they can do that's going to help them clear out the antigens in our body. And here they are. So first of which, they can do neutralization, which means when we're looking at all these epitopes, the antibodies are going to swarm and they're going to attach to all these different epitopes. Now remember, I mentioned bacteria need to feed on your body cells. That's the whole purpose of what they're doing. In order to do that, they have to attach to your body cells. Neutralization of antibodies means that you're covering their attachment sites. So bacteria can't physically attach to your body cell to actually eat it and try to digest it. So when you have the neutralization, it's because the antibodies are preventing the bacteria from actually binding to your injured cells, and it's going to prevent those pathogens from entering, or even from the toxins that the pathogens are creating. They're going to neutralize those so they can't enter into your cells. They're going to stimulate inflammation. So we talk about inflammation basically throughout every chapter. The antibodies are going to stimulate our mast cells and our basophils, and those in turn are going to release histamine, which is going to cause our inflammation reaction. So the antibodies help with inflammation. It's going to activate our complement system. Remember, this was part of our innate system, just like inflammation was part of our innate system. The complement proteins were going to be made within the liver, but then they complement and fit together and they puncture holes into bacteria. So the complement system is actually going to help to be activated by antibodies that are going to be out there. So the complement system is more effective when you have the antibodies there. The antibodies cause precipitation or agglutination. Now, if you remember back from our blood unit, the agglutination is when you have clumping of cells. When you have all these antibodies that are going to be binding to the epitopes of pathogens, it's going to cause those pathogens to congregate in one particular area, and it's going to cause the clumping of it. So they're going to create these immune complexes that are going to precipitate out a solution, which then makes it easier for your white blood cells of your innate immunity to find them and then actually engulf them. That in turn goes with attracting phagocytes. So the white blood cells are the ones that are killing off the bacteria. And so the antibodies attract the phagocytes to that area. And of course, the antibodies are already neutralizing the bacteria and they're causing it to precipitate as well, which makes it easier for the phagocytes to get to the pathogens because they're all clumped in one area. They're also going to go through what is referred to as opsonization. Opsonization is where you're creating a coating around the antigen itself, and as you do that, that actually makes it easier for the phagocyte to engulf it. So it gives attachment points for the phagocyte to increase its efficiency of the phagocytes through the phagocytic process because the antibodies are there. And then we also have preventing adhesion. Preventing adhesion is kind of similar to neutralization. Remember, neutralization was the bacteria can't bind because the bacteria is covered in these antibodies. Preventing adhesion is not the bacteria that's going to be coated with the antibodies. It's going to be the fact that your body secretions have this layer of antibodies on these fluids, which is preventing the bacterial cell from attaching to it because your tissues are now covered in antibodies, so they're kind of blocking the way for the pathogens. So neutralization is the antibody attaching to the bacteria, and now the bacteria can't bind. Preventing adhesion is the antibodies are coating your tissues, which prevents the pathogen from binding to your cells. So notice all of these, they do not indicate in any way that antibodies are killing anything. So the antibodies don't actively destroy the pathogens, but they're mostly stimulating your innate system. So they're stimulating your innate system to do the cleanup of that area, and it's just making that all a lot more efficient. Antibodies have 5 different classes that we're going to talk about, and antibodies are going to technically be referred to as immunoglobulins, or IGs. So immunoglobulins, you're going to have different letters that are going to indicate which one you're talking about. IgG is going to be the largest and most diverse class of antibodies. So 80% of the antibodies within your body are going to be IgG. This is the be-all cleanup for almost anything that you can have. So it's responsible for viral resistance. It fights against bacteria and bacterial toxins. This is also one that can cross the placenta. So the mother making IgG is going to give that passive immunity to the fetus. It's going to be that natural passive immunity. When we talk about our anti-RH are a type of IgG antibody. Next is going to be IgE. IgE is going to be attached to the surface of the basophils and mast cells. So these kind of act like a receptor on the plasma membrane. When you have an antigen that binds to the IgE, it's going to cause the cells to release histamine. IgD is going to be on the surface of our B cells. So the IgD was that important antibody that was on the surface for B cell sensitization. So when we saw, let me go back to it for a second, our B cells, and we saw these antibodies sticking out there, those antibodies were going to be the IgDs. So IgDs are going to be found on the surface of our B cells, and they're going to be the ones that are going to IgM is actually going to have like 5 antibodies that are all kind of mashed in together. So they're all connected at this central point. IgM is actually the first class of antibody that's made. So when you first encounter the antigen, and then you have gone through the activation and the sensitization, and now you're making antibodies, this is generally the first one that's going to be made. It is not as effective as IgG, so once IgG starts being made, then the IgM is generally going to start declining. When we talk about in the blood typing, anti-A and anti-B antibodies, those were types of Ig, and so they're the ones that were responsible for the agglutination of the blood if there was incompatibility with the blood types. These are also going to be important in terms of if the IgG is not effective because there are certain bacteria that are insensitive to IgG, IgM can usually go in there and help with that. And then IgA. They're going to be found in your glandular secretions, so like your mucus, your saliva, your tears, even semen. All of those are going to actually be coating your body tissue. And so you'll notice here the IgA is kind of 2 of the antibody pieces that are going to be put together. So IgA is the one that's going to help us prevent adhesion because it's coating our fluids within our body so that the bacteria cannot bind to the epithelial surface